Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all doing well. I'm trying a little new kind of setup today. Do let me know your thoughts below if you prefer this to my old setup. I'm using like a ring light and I just thought a white background would be better than my usual background, so do let me know what you think. In today's video I'm going to be talking about some cultural differences you will experience when you come to Singapore. If you already live here you probably already know these, but if you're maybe planning to come to Singapore or if you're moving to Singapore, then these tips should definitely help you out. So I'm basing these things off of living in the UK versus living in Singapore. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get started with the video. The first thing you'll realise when you come to Singapore is that obviously everyone uses chopsticks, that's probably a given, but what I found quite funny is although we use chopsticks here, we also only use a fork and a spoon. So everyone in the Western world that's used to using a knife and a fork, that completely goes out the window and you're left with a fork and a spoon, which I still find very unusual because although spoons come in handy, I can never chop food with a spoon. So I always go to chop, but I have a spoon, so it's really hard. So adapting to eating without a knife is very strange, and it's probably something I still haven't got the knack of, but it's just something that you have to get used to. Something we found really hard to adapt to is if you're in a restaurant and you want to get the waiter's attention, you have to put your hand up to call them over. So in the UK that would be seen as something like rude to do. It's not something that we would ever do, but here it's just you put your hand up and the waiter will come over. They're not as attentive here as they would usually be in the Western world, so you always have to put your hand up if you want the bill or if you want them to come over. It's just something you have to get used to doing. At first we were like, oh, because we just thought it was really rude, but now it's just completely normal to do. Definitely a big one for me has been learning to pronounce Chinese names. It's not something I ever really had to do in the UK, so it's quite funny coming over here and having to learn how to pronounce these names. Like names beginning with an X, like I would never, not usual names that I would come across living in the UK, so names like, I'm going to be saying people from work now, so if you're watching, I'm sorry. Names like Wei Hung, Singy, Ocean, Xinghui, Chong Yuan, Yun Lam, all these names that I just normally would never hear of. I guess that was kind of a struggle for me when I first moved here. I mean, there's still names now that I don't know how to pronounce, so I'll have to ask someone, oh, how do I pronounce that? But working with Singaporeans, that definitely was one kind of culture shock for me. I'm used to saying names like Tim or Jane, and a lot of Singaporeans do have English names, so that definitely comes in handy, but I found it really interesting being able to like pronounce all these Chinese names. Something that I've definitely experienced here in Singapore is like brutal honesty, and I feel like Singaporeans are very honest, and again this is just a cultural thing. In the UK I guess you'd be kind of tiptoe and you'd be more sensitive of people's feelings, and I'm not saying that Singaporeans are rude, but they definitely just kind of say what's on their mind, and it's kind of sometimes it's quite brutal honesty. That's something I've experienced quite a bit. I find it kind of funny because I just think like, wow, like you really don't hold back, but I don't know, I think it's just something that Singaporeans do here. If it's about your appearance or yeah, it's usually about your appearance, but I think now I just kind of take it on the chin and just like, okay. But for some reason, yeah, Singaporeans, I feel like they're very brutally honest. Another thing we really noticed once we moved here was the amount of people that are on their phones. Yeah, I think I've mentioned before, like in the UK on the London Underground, I don't think we get Wi-Fi on the Underground. No, we don't get 3G on the Underground. So no one's really on their phones. They're like reading the newspaper or reading books, but as soon as you step onto the MRT in Singapore, everyone is just like locked to their phone, and like even I do it myself now, but it's just crazy to see how many people are on their phones. You look around and everyone is on their phone, so that was definitely a bit of a shock. And also like the amount of people that take selfies as well. Everyone's always taking selfies, and yeah, it just seems to be kind of normal here, so it's definitely something I noticed moving here. I wanted to talk a bit about work and study culture. School seems to be a huge thing growing up in Singapore, very important. Emphasis is always on study hard, do well in school, and I feel like it's the same with work life as well. You know, they work really hard and they want to be successful. There seems to be this thing, you know, we need to be smart, we need to be successful. Like, that's a big thing in Singapore. Not saying it's not the same in the UK, but it's definitely not drilled into us as much like that. You know, it's more, I guess it's a bit more relaxed, whereas here it seems to be very, yeah, it seems hard. If you're a student here, it seems like, you know, you need to succeed, and I can see how that could be stressful as a child in school. Maybe you guys can let me know below. Let me know your school experiences. Do you find it stressful? Do you feel like there's a lot of pressure on having to succeed? Because that's the impression I get. So yeah, maybe you guys can let me know. A big cultural thing is to take your shoes off before you enter anyone's house. Back home, yeah, like some people will tell you to take your shoes off, but not everywhere. So I feel like that was a big thing here, is remembering to take your shoes off before you enter the house, just out of politeness. Another thing that you'll notice is that you call the elderly either auntie or uncle. So if you're getting a taxi, you know, you'd call him uncle. I mean, I don't, because I don't know. I'm not Singaporean, so I feel like I'm being a bit fake if I call them uncle, because it's not natural to me. But you'll notice that they name elderly man would be uncle and an elderly woman would be auntie. I think it's really sweet. I think it's a sign of respect. I think it's really cute, but it's not something that I would do naturally. But if you do hear that, then that is the reason why. Not that we do it in the UK, but you do not need to tip in Singapore. GST is always added on the bills, especially in restaurants, so tipping isn't a natural thing. I mean, it's not a natural thing for me either, because I'm English, but I think definitely for Americans, where tipping is the norm, you don't need to worry about that in Singapore. From working in London, we will always stand on the right of the escalator, but when you come to Singapore, you have to stand on the left. So at first that was really like, oh, when I was trying to remember which side to stand on. Now it comes totally natural. Obviously I stand on the left, but recently when I went home back to London, I forgot and I was standing on the wrong side and people getting annoyed at me. So yeah, that's just a little thing that you have to remember. Always stand on the left. Last thing I wanted to talk about is obviously food. Obviously it's to be expected that when you come to Singapore, there'll be all different types of food that you've maybe never seen or tried before. Things like people eating chicken porridge for breakfast, or, you know, snacking on seaweed. Like, it was definitely things that I was like, oh, that's strange, but now it's completely normal to me. I would just say embrace it. Don't be scared of it, at least give it a try, and yeah, just accept that things are going to be different here in Singapore. I love how they have every kind of food here. Even if, you know, you're a bit wary of something, there's a million other things that you can try. Okay guys, so I'm gonna stop there. I do hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to give it a thumbs up if you did, and if you're new to my channel, do subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. You have to hit the bell notification now. So make sure you turn that on, and then you'll be alerted every time I upload a new video. If you have recently visited Singapore or you've moved here, do comment down below and let me know what cultural differences you noticed when you came here, because I'd be really interested to know. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!